History often begins with a single moment of madness, not a battle, not a sword strike, but a decision. On the island of Salamis, in a crowded Greek assembly hall, a man named Lycidas rose to speak. He was not a general, he was not a king, he was not even particularly famous. He was simply an Athenian counselor who believed that logic still had a place in a broken world. The Persian Empire had sent an offer: peace. Lycidas suggested that Greece should at least listen. There were no boos, no counter-arguments, no passionate speeches in reply. Instead, something colder took over. One counselor picked up a stone, then another, then another. Lycidas never finished his sentence. He was beaten to death on the floor of the assembly, the very place where democracy claimed to protect free speech. The killing did not stop there. When the news spilled into the streets, Athenian women gathered, ran to Lycidas' home, dragged his wife and children outside, and murdered them as well. This was not rage, this was fear given permission. By 479 BC, Greece was no longer thinking clearly. It was traumatized. Thermopylae was still fresh in memory. 300 Spartans lay dead, their sacrifice already turning into legend. Athens had been evacuated, burned, rebuilt, and burned again. Sacred temples were rubble. Statues lay broken in the dust. Families slept in exile, staring across the sea at the ruins of their homes. To modern ears, the murder of Lycidas sounds barbaric, but to the Greeks of that moment, it felt necessary. Diplomacy had failed them. Reason had failed them. Only survival mattered now. The message was clear. There would be no compromise. When King Xerxes finally withdrew the bulk of his forces back to Asia, Greece did not celebrate, because Xerxes had not truly left. He had left Mardonius. Mardonius was everything Xerxes was not. He did not crave spectacle. He did not sit on golden thrones watching battles from afar. He was a professional soldier, patient, calculating, and terrifyingly intelligent. He held northern Greece with an army still massive by any standard. Ancient sources exaggerate numbers, but what matters is quality. This was no exhausted parade force. Mardonius had dismissed the weak, the unwilling, the conscripts. What remained was a hardened core, elite infantry, experienced archers, and cavalry that ruled open ground. To make his point unmistakably, the first clash came not with a roar, but a stumble. A Persian scout, riding ahead of the main lines, misjudged the slope near Mount Citharon. His horse faltered, he fell, and a Greek hoplite was already there. The man struck without hesitation. A single spear, a single death. It should have been meaningless, just one man, one horse, but it was the spark. From the Persian camp, arrows rose like a dark cloud. Cavalry circled the hilltops, testing, probing. From below, Greek hoplites braced, shields locked, spears trembling in anticipation. Then Mardonius unleashed his first feint. From the Persian left, a cavalry detachment thundered forward, not to strike, but to draw the Greeks down from the high ground. The terrain was lethal for the heavy infantry. A single misstep could mean death in the open. But the Greeks did not move. Discipline held. Spartan orders were absolute. Every man knew his place. Every formation was rehearsed. Hours passed. The sun climbed. Sweat dripped under bronze helmets. Horses pawed at the dirt. The clatter of armor was a constant reminder. This was no training exercise. At midday, Mardonius escalated. Archers and javelin men advanced from the Persian lines. The sky darkened with projectiles. Athenian shields rattled. Corinthian spears flexed. Spartan discipline held. A single Greek captain, Pantheus of Corinth, saw a gap in the Persian lines. A reckless idea struck him. He charged. 30 men followed. 30 became 100. Within moments, a small skirmish erupted, isolated from the main battle. Mardonius watched,
unmoved. He had anticipated this. Hidden infantry flanked Pantheus's men. The Greeks were trapped. The slaughter was swift. Spears, arrows, and swords tore through the daring Corinthian force. Only a handful escaped back to the Greek lines, their screams echoing across the valley.
The sun rose over Plataea, burning gold across the plains. Mist clung to the river and the slopes of Mount Cithaeron. The Greeks stood ready. Thousands of men, shoulder to shoulder, shield to shield, spears angled like a forest of iron. Sparta in the center, Athens and Corinth on the flanks. Every polis held a position. Every hoplite knew his neighbor. Every step was measured. Across the valley, Mardonius surveyed the scene from his fortified camp. Cavalry lined the flanks. Archers formed dense ranks. Infantry waited like a tide, patient, disciplined, and deadly. Then, without warning, the Persian trumpets sounded. The plains erupted, horses thundered, dust rose, and the first wave of Persian infantry charged. The Greek line held. Spears met shields. The clatter was deafening. Men screamed, armor rang, blood spattered dust. At first, it seemed the Greeks might break. Persian numbers pressed forward, cavalry tried to flank. Athenians shouted warnings. Spartan discipline held, unwavering. Athenian General Aristides saw an opening and signaled his men. A small force advanced against a thin Persian line, forcing it to buckle. Horses fell, archers scattered. For a moment, the tide seemed to shift. But Mardonius was prepared. He had calculated every move. Hidden infantry struck the Greek flank. Cavalry charged from the rear. Spears clashed with spears. Chaos erupted. In the midst of it, one Spartan warrior became a legend. His name was Cleomenes. Cleomenes' spear struck down 3 Persian infantrymen before he was surrounded. He fought like a wall of bronze. One enemy charged him from the side. Cleomenes pivoted, drove his shield into the man, and plunged his sword into another. For hours, he held a small gap in the line that could have doomed Sparta. Nearby, an Athenian sailor turned hoplite realized that discipline alone would not win. He grabbed a fallen soldier's spear and threw himself into a Persian unit. The Greeks, seeing his courage, pressed forward. Fear began to shift. Mardonius saw the change. The Greeks. Dawn broke over Plataea, and the valley smelled of smoke, blood, and iron. Mardonius sat atop a ridge, his golden armor smeared with dust, watching the remnants of his army. The immortals had been shattered, cavalry scattered, infantry exhausted. The great Persian machine he had perfected for years was faltering. For a moment, he considered retreat, but his pride, his orders from Xerxes, and the eyes of thousands of soldiers held him in place. Persia would not lose. Not here, not now. The Greeks advanced, slowly, methodically. Every hoplite shielded his neighbor. Every step was deliberate. They knew the terrain, they knew the enemy, and they knew the stakes. If they faltered, Persia would regroup and crush Greece. Then it happened. Cleomenes, the Spartan warrior whose name had already spread across the lines, spotted Mardonius. The Persian commander's arrogance made him visible. With a nod, Cleomenes lunged. It was not a grand, heroic charge. It was precision. One spear, aimed at the man who had orchestrated death, who had burned Athens, who had terrorized Greece for years. Mardonius tried to raise his sword. Too late. The spear struck him in the chest. He fell from his horse, and in that instant, the Persian army lost its heart. Chaos erupted. Without Mardonius to command, the remaining Persian soldiers panicked. Cavalry fled toward the hills. Infantry broke ranks. The plain became a massacre. not for heroism, but for survival. The Greeks did not give quarter. This was not cruelty. This was war decided. Years of fear, trauma, and sacrifice demanded an end. By nightfall,